What is going on, Raiders? Soda Dragon here. Welcome and hope you guys are doing well. So today, guys, is the start of the mighty UKKO fusion. And if you watched my last video, you know that I said, yeah, fuse this guy. If you have the resources, absolutely go for him. He is solid. So today, guys, I'm going to give you my ultimate guide to the UKKO fusion. Now, we don't have a schedule out yet, but that's fine. Once it comes out, and it'll probably come out while I'm making this video, we'll talk about it. But chances are we won't really need to, because a lot of the tips and tricks I'm going to give you, they really apply to any fusion. So they're applicable whether or not we know the exact schedule. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I want to talk about is fusion preparation. Now, I know what some of you guys might be saying. Preparation, that's a little late because the fusion is on by the time you watch this video. And yeah, that's true. But really, when I say this preparation stuff for these fusion videos, it's for the next fusion. So yes, it's not applicable right now because the fusion has started. But for the next fusion, these are things to consider. So guys, the first tip is all this stuff in your inbox, all these resources, save it as long as you can. Of course, don't let it expire, but save this for fusions. You already know every single month you're going to get a fusion, right? So a lot of stuff won't expire in a month. So yeah, might as well save it. So if you're using this for a fusion, it's well spent. Now, yes, you can use some for CVC, but if I were to prioritize, which is more important to your account, CVC or fusion, I'd probably say fusion. So definitely save these resources and prioritize fusions, especially over CVCs. Now guys, continuing on with the preparation theme, make sure you save everything regarding the tavern. Save all the resources as much as you can for fusion. So that includes, you see your beers here, that includes your chicken champs, that includes your ascension potions. Really, the only thing you don't really need to save are the books. So booking out your champs is not going to get you any more points in a fusion. The only way you get points for that is in a CVC. So yeah, sure, use your books for CVCs. But as far as everything else, your beers, your chickens, your ascension potions, definitely save those for fusions. So out of all your resources, which are the most important to save? I would say gems. Why is this? Because look at what you can buy with gems. If you need that XP boost, yeah, you can buy it. You need energy, yeah, you can buy it. You need a classic arena refill, yeah, you can buy it with gems. You need shards, yes, you can buy with gems. In fact, potions, those arcane white potions, yes, you can buy those too. So pretty much everything you need related to a fusion, yes, you can buy those with gems. So gems are really, really important. So guys, quickly, what is the difference between a classical fusion and a fragment summon? Well, the biggest difference is in the resources you need. For a fragment summon, you need one less resource than for a classic fusion. And what do you need for classic fusions? You need ascension potions, and a lot of them, because you're going to need to ascend those rares into those epics and ascend those epics into that legendary. That takes a lot of ascension potions. Whereas for a fragment summon, you don't need to worry about ascension potions at all. Well, you get points for ascending, but they're not required absolutely like they are with the traditional fusion. Next up, guys, let's talk about champ chase events. And the key is in the name, champ chase. Literally, get those champions any way possible. Now, if you have to spend shards, sure, you're going to need to spend shards. But if you can get champs any other ways, which we'll talk about, then yes, you can save on those shards. So for champ chase, you don't necessarily need to spend a ton of shards, or sometimes not any at all. So for champ chase, getting a higher rarity champion will get you more points. So getting an uncommon won't get you as much as a legendary. So that's the thing, the rarity of the champion. The higher the rarity of the champ that you're bringing into your account, the more points you're going to get. So one way to get new champs while not spending any shards in champ chase is fusions. That is old fusions that you've saved up. So this would be the perfect time for you to pull out that new fusion to get a ton of champ chase points. Yes, I know some of you guys save these for CVC points, but come on guys, what's more important to your account? A new legendary or CVC points? Come on guys, pick that new legendary for your account. Another thing you can do is actually fuse champions, and some of these fusions are permanent. For example, Relic Keeper here, you can keep on fusing him as many times as you want. Same thing with Broadmaw here. Now, if you fuse Rosin, that's only one time, but still, if you haven't done it yet, yes, you will get those champ chase points for fusing Rosin. And these permanent ones, yes, you can keep on fusing them if you want. A more nuclear option you can go for, if you got all the extra legendaries, is to go into the Guardian Ring and the token trader. So basically, you're going to unbind your champs. That is, you're going to trade your old legendaries in for tokens, 500 each, and then you're going to buy yourself a new champ. Obviously, this won't be a good option for most people, but there are some whales out there with a ton of extra champs, and no, you don't want to empower. So yeah, the token trader might be a good option for you. Next up, guys, talk about summon rush events. Yes, for summon rush events, you must use your shards. There is no way around this, unlike champ chase. And another thing that's interesting for summon rush events is that the quality of the champion is irrelevant. Remember, for Champ Chase, the higher rarity champ you got, the more points you got. For Summon Rush, it does not matter. It's the rarity of the shard that you pull that determines the points that you get. So obviously the highest rarity here would be Sacred Shards. So you get the most points for pulling your Sacreds versus pulling your Mystery Shards. So another way to think about this is for Summon Rush events, it doesn't matter who you pull. Luck does not factor in. All that factors in is you use the appropriate amount of shards to get the points that you need. That is it. It's just like a simple math process. That's all. Whereas for Champ Chase, luck matters a lot if you're pulling shards. Let's say you pull some shards and you get lucky and pull a few legendaries. You're going to get a ton of points. But let's say you use those same shards but don't pull any legendaries. Well, you're not going to get as many points. So for the Summon Rush, it doesn't matter who you pull. All that matters is that you use the appropriate amount of shards to get the points that you need. But nevertheless, are there any tips on Summon Rush? Yes, firstly, don't use any more than you have to. Try to save them for 2x events. So those are the best when they coincide, or save them for guaranteed champ events, or save them for Champ Chase. Whatever, just try to save as much as you can. So don't use any more than you have to. A lot of times these do not coincide with 2x events. Another tip is use your green shards, use your mystery shards. I know you have to go through a lot of them, but going through all that saves your higher rarity shards. So if you really want to save your higher rarity shards for those 2x events, for those guaranteed legendary events, for future fusions, then yes, use your mystery shards. And any chance you get outside of a fusion, of course, save up those mystery shards. Go to the market every day. Every time it refreshes, go to the market and buy those green shards, because those allow you to hopefully not have to use your higher rarity shards for these Summon Rush events. All right, guys, check this out. Literally in the middle of making this video, they come out with the event calendar. So yes, now it is available for you to download. So guys, last tip for Summon Rush is if you're doing it at the same time that it coincides with a champion training event, then as you pull those green champions, those common and uncommons, and feed them as XP into another champ, you can at the same time be getting those champ training points. So that is a way to double dip. Next up, guys, let's talk about our dungeon events like the Fire Knight's Castle, like the Dragon's Lair, like the Spider's Den, and like the Ice Golem's Peak. So firstly, as far as your dungeon events, what is the best stage for efficiency for energy? That is getting the most points per energy spent. So for all your dungeon events, the best place to farm is going to be stage 20s. Yes, for all of them. Dragon's Lair, Fire Knight, Ice Golem, and the Spider. It's all the same. Stage 20s, not over. First, stage 20s are the most energy efficient, so you get the most points per energy spent. But secondly, the stage 20s are the most time efficient because they are not enemy max HP capped. Once you get to stages 21 through 25, the maximum amount of damage you can do with an enemy max HP skill is 10% of the boss's max HP. Well, as far as stage 20s and down, there is no cap. So you can do like half the boss's whole health in one attack if that attack is strong enough. There's no artificial cap. So as far as time efficiency and points per energy spent efficiency, yes, stage 20s are the way to go for your dungeons. Next up, guys, let's talk about Dungeon Divers events. So a lot of times they do coincide with our dungeon events. You see right now, Ice Golem Tournament is going on and we have Dungeon Divers event simultaneous with it. So what would be the best stages to run your dungeons specifically for a Dungeon Divers event? So as far as efficiency and points per energy spent for Dungeon Divers events, the most efficient stage to farm your dungeons is going to be stage 3. Yes, stage 3, followed by stage 16 and then stage 20. So guys, am I telling you to farm stage 3s in your dungeons to get the most Dungeon Divers points per energy spent? No, I am not. Ideally, what you want to do for your account is use your energy in a way that benefits your account in the long run. And farming stage 3s of dungeons really won't improve your account in the short or long run. But instead, we're going to look at second and third place, stage 16s and stage 20s. Now, both of those, yes, would benefit your account as far as the gear you gain. But what would benefit it more, stage 16 or stage 20? Well, stage 20. And the thing is, the points between second and third place, stage 16 and stage 20, are pretty close. So what would you go for? Stage 20, because you're going to get better gear for a negligible loss in points as far as Dungeon Diver events. And you're being the most efficient as far as your dungeon events. Remember, we talked about stage 20s being the best for your dungeon events. So if you're doing both simultaneously, like you're going to do right now with the Ice Golem and with your Dungeon Divers, run stage 20s. It's the most efficient for your dungeon points. Plus, it's quite efficient for your Dungeon Divers points. And it's the most time efficient, and you're going to get good gear out of it. Now, while we're on the topic of double dipping your Dungeon Divers events and your dungeon events, make sure that both are happening simultaneously if you want to be the most efficient, right? Sometimes they don't happen simultaneously. Sometimes Dungeon Divers happens a little bit later than your dungeon events. That means if you started farming hard those dungeons before the Dungeon Divers started up, then you're not getting those Dungeon Divers points. So make sure both are happening at the same time to double dip. And guys, as far as this current fusion, make sure to double check the Dungeon Divers 2 and the Spider Tournament, because the Dungeon Divers 2 is going to start before the Spider Tournament. What does that mean? It's going to expire before the Spider Tournament. What does that mean for you? Use the majority of your points, if not all of them, to get all the points that you need at the beginning of the Spider Tournament. Because if you wait till the end, the Dungeon Divers 2 will have already expired. And the same thing occurs for Dungeon Divers 3. That actually starts before your Dragon Tournament. What does that mean for your Dragon Tournament? Well, if you want to double dip, at the beginning of the Dragon Tournament, when it first starts, make sure to invest most of your points, most of your grinding and farming at that point, the beginning of the Dragon Tournament, because the Dungeon Divers 3 will still be happening. Don't invest your points at the end of the Dragon Tournament when the Dungeon Divers 3 has already expired. Next up, guys, let's talk about artifact enhancement events. Now, to prepare for them, what you want to do is you want to save your 5 to 6 star epic and legendary gear, save them at level 15. Level 15, right? So once the events start, finally, you're going to level them all the way up to 16. So if you have to level up your gear outside of an artifact enhancement event, save that final level, the level 16, for the artifact enhancement event, especially for 5 to 6 star gear, and especially for epic and legendary gear, which you get more points for. And as far as whose gear to level up, one thing to think about is who have you used recently? That's a good start as far as whose gear you should level up, and we can help ourselves out by looking at our recently used first champions. One other thing that can help you decide what gear pieces to level up is looking at your gear filter. So you're gonna go ahead and go to filter here, and you're gonna check by speed substats. If you look just by speed, you're gonna get all boots. And yes, speed boots are good to level up, but by the substats. So here you're gonna look for pieces of gear that have that speed substat because you've checked the filter, but that are not leveled up. So here may be a good piece for you to level up, because once again, it has not been leveled up all the way, and it has that precious speed substat. So guys, as far as the question of silver efficiency, that is, where do I stop leveling up my gear? 4, 8, 12, or 16? The only rule is don't stop at 8. That's pretty much it. Anywhere else you stop, whether it's 4, 12, or 16, you will be silver efficient. That means you'll get a good amount of points per silver spent. But if you stop at 8, that is the most inefficient place, all right? So wherever you level up your gear, 4, 12, or 16 is fine, as long as it is not 8. Next up, guys, let's talk about champ training events. So one of the best ways to get champ training points is to prioritize or focus on the early levels, that is the levels closest to 1 of high ranked champions. So obviously 6 star would be your highest. So you want to focus on the highest ranked champions you have that are at level 1, because those early levels are so precious to champ training events. So guys, notice here I have a 5 star Paragon at level 1. So once again, we're going for a high rank. 5 star is pretty good. It's not 6 star, but it's pretty good. So I have a high ranked champ at level 1. Perfect for leveling up. So why do we want to focus on the early levels of champion? Well, because those are the most EXP efficient. Or in other words, they're the cheapest to level, right? Because we can take 1 beer in here, and because this guy is close to level 1, actually he is level 1, that means he gets 9 levels from that first beer. So very EXP efficient, these early levels. But every subsequent beer we put in is going to get him less levels. So his second beer is not going to get him 9 levels. It's only going to get him, what, 5 levels, right? And let's put in 1 more beer. Doesn't even give him 5 levels. You guys can see every beer we put in, even though it's the same amount of experience every single beer we put in, it gets him less levels. And eventually 1 beer is not going to even get him 1 level. You're going to have to use multiple beers to get him 1 level. So champions become more EXP inefficient as they reach their cap. Therefore, we want to focus on the early levels of our high ranked champions. They're just the cheapest. Another thing we don't want to do is we don't want to use champs as chickens before we've leveled them up first. So only sacrifice champions that you have leveled up first. I know it sounds weird, but we don't want to sacrifice level 1s. So here with Frozen Banshee, here would be a bad example of me using these 3 champions to level up my Frozen Banshee, that is ranker up. Why? Because these champions are at level 1, and we talked about how precious those early levels are and how EXP efficient they are, how cheap they are. So ideally we would want to level up all 3 of these champions with maybe a few beers, or run them through 12-3 Brutal a few times before we sacrifice them. All right, so definitely do not sacrifice level 1s. Now really this applies to rares and above. If you want to do that with commons and uncommons, I think it's fine. But for rares and above, do not sacrifice champions until you've leveled them up a few times. And lastly guys, let's talk about tips for classic arena takedown. So guys, the first tip is don't use your strongest defense for your arena defense. Use a medium to weak defense. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to pile on your points that quickly. So if you're getting wins from defense and wins from offense, I mean, it's gonna push you up too quickly. So if you're having trouble in classic arena, you don't want that to be the case. You don't want to come by hard arena fights. So what do? You counterbalance your wins on arena offense with losses on arena defense. So whether it's a one-man defense or just a weak arena defense, however weak you want to put it, make sure that you balance those two out. And another tip if you're having trouble for your classic arena is to focus on the teams that give you the least amount of points for beating them. Notice the teams on the top of the page here, they're going to give you less points for winning as far as arena rank than the teams lower here. So some of these arena teams, notice plus 14, plus 13, plus 12. Whereas closer to the top of the page, when you win these fights, you only get plus 8, plus 8, plus 10. So your arena rank is not rising as rapidly when you fight the teams closer to the top of the page. What does that mean? Focus on them and refresh as much as you need to fight these weaker arena teams, at least teams that if you win, your arena rank won't be pushed up that quickly. And guys, remember to use that free refresh. It happens every 15 minutes. If you're having trouble in classic arena, find teams you can fight more often. How do you do that? You refresh. So make use of that free refresh. If you have to use gems sometimes, I wouldn't really recommend it, but you can. But I mean, it happens every 15 minutes. So definitely make use of that free refresh to help you find teams you can hopefully beat. So guys, lastly, let's look at the total amount of fragments that we can get, not including tournament leaderboard. So it looks like the total that we can get is 115 fragments. So since we only need 100 to summon our legendary, that means there is 15 fragments of wiggle room, or 15 fragments that we don't need to get. So guys, just keep that in mind as you go through your events and tournaments. There are 15 fragments that you do not need to get. So if there's some particular event that's hard for you, that's fine if you can calculate it in and make sure you get all the fragments that you need, which is 100 minimum. As long as you can get that, there are 15 fragments you do not need to worry about. All right, guys, that is going to be it. Let me know if you're going for this fusion and if this fusion guide helps you. So thanks for watching. And if you guys haven't yet, like, subscribe, and share. Turn on all notifications. Stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.